بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إلهنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب قلوبنا العبد المؤيد والرسول المصدد المصطفى الأمجاد المحمود الأحمد أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى أهل بيت الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المكرمين سيما بقية الله في السماوات والأراضين. قال الله تبارك وتعالى في القرآن الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم وأما من بخل واستغنى وكذب بالحسنى فسنيسره للعسرى وما يغني عنه ماله إذا تردى. Verse 11 of Surah Layl. The last verse we did last night was verse 10, and we talked about that people's efforts are different. There are varieties and divided in different ways based on their intention, based on their performance. The amount of efforts that they have is not in the same level. So then Allah used an example that either we have people who are generous, they give in this for the sake of Allah, and they have taqwa, and also they believe in the promise of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the rewards. And the other type of efforts are the one who are stingy, they don't give, they feel they're self-sufficient, they don't feel that they are in need of Allah, and they deny the promise of God. They deny the reward and they don't believe in it. And the outcome of these two type of efforts is, one, Allah said, we will make the path easy for those who are generous, those who have taqwa. And for those who are stingy and they are self-sufficient, they will have it difficult. And it's not the task, as we mentioned last night, that it will be difficult or easy, rather than the person. That it will not be difficult for us to do good, and it will not be easy to do good for the one who are stingy, right? So you remember we talked about this. So for example, Allah, when it talks about salat, about prayers, so إِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Kabir in Arabic language means when something big, right, or heavy. Allah said salat and prayers is heavy, is difficult, is not an easy thing for people to do. إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِعِينَ. Except those who are humble before God. Those who have khushu', they have humility before God, praying for them will be easy. And it makes sense to think about it. For example, a lot of parents come to me and they say, our children, they play and they spend a lot of time doing different things. And when it comes to salat, and it's not really taking that much time, but it's always difficult to tell them to pray. They play 2 hours of game, but when it comes to 5 minutes of salat, is a very heavy burden. It goes back to this. Because if somebody believe in the promise of Allah, if somebody believe the blessing that prayers will bring to your life, it make it easy for us to wake up for our prayers and do our prayers. But if God forbid we don't really believe in it, we don't really think it's real, it is all what we see and it is all we enjoy, then it will become difficult for people to do good. So that is the ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْيُسْرَى. We will surely ease him toward facility, or فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. We will surely ease him toward hardship. So it takes to the person that will be difficult for them to do good, or it will be easy for them to do good. And that's applicable to so many situations. We know we have people that it's okay to stand in front of the masjid for 2 hours on their feet and talk. And when it comes to sitting in a masjid for 10 minutes, it's like there's literally something torturing them. It is difficult to tolerate. If you go to a wedding, and instead of a wedding by the time we will plan to finish wedding at 10 p.m. Right? And if even the wedding goes to 12 p.m., you don't see somebody complain, oh, what kind of wedding is this? It's difficult when it comes to, oh, we're supposed to read Quran for 20 minutes, now it's 25 minutes. What are we doing? Right? We should have, I'm not trying to justify lack of proper schedule. We should stick, thank you. We should stick to our promises, and we have to make sure to be punctual. But at the same time, it's our double standard that is the issue. That if you are punctual on everything, that would be acceptable. But if you are punctual on everything except the Word of God, we're not punctual about every detail of our schedule per day, then it becomes a question, why is it so difficult to do good? And same thing when it comes to money spending. Right? When it comes to money spending, we buy gift for each other, which is good. We're ready to exchange gift and all that, which is good. And when it comes to Eid al-Fitr, and they asked me, Hajjah, how much is the Fitriya? And I said, it's 14, maybe it's better to give 15. No, how much exactly? And is it like a negotiation going on in the middle of that? This is not for everyone, by the way. For some people, it's easy. As Allah said, it will be easy to give, it will be easy to have taqwa. But the differentiation is the type of efforts that people have. What type of efforts you have. Then Allah goes to verse 11. وَمَا يُغْنِي عَنْهُ مَالُهُ إِذَا تَرَدَّى. His wealth will not be satisfactory, will not be fulfilling for him or her, إِذَا تَرَدَّى. When they are perishing, when they are falling. Taradda is when somebody's falling. So what are they falling from? They're falling in their connection with Allah. They're falling in their humanity. They're falling in even the status of, let's say, punishment of Allah. They will be falling to the punishment of Allah. That's the reason Allah said, Ma yughni. Why this verse is connected to the previous verse. When Allah said, those who feel istighna. They're stingy and they don't give, they don't share what they have with the poor and needy. They are the one that they feel that they don't need anyone, they don't need God. Must istighna. And then Allah said their money that give them that sensation will not help them when they're falling. The money will not be fulfilling. وَمَا يُغْنِي. It will not give them ghina, it will not give them fulfillment. مَالَهُ. Their mal, their wealth. إِذَا تَرَدَّى. While they are falling and perishing. إِنَّ عَلَيْنَا لَلْهُدَى. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, indeed, guidance of humanity is upon us. And Allah in multiple verses of Quran talks about our responsibilities. We call them ahkam, the rules for mankind. And then there are sunnat Allah. There are rules that Allah governed Himself by. They obliged Himself to be in a certain way, based on His perfection. For example, one of them is this, Inna alayna lal huda. It's on me to guide people. It is on me. That's my side. Right? It's on me, raziqun, nahnu raziqun. I'm the sustainer. I'm the one who is the provider. Rabbul alamin. I'm the caregiver. These are the tasks that I am in charge. Your job is to appreciate, as the Quran said, Inna hadaynahu sabil imma shakiran wa imma kafura. We will guide humanity, but it's their choice to appreciate, to be grateful, or to don't listen, to turn away from it. It's their call. And it is important, and it's always this relationship and everything in Quran. Allah said, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. Remember me, I will remember you. Right? إِنْ يَنْصُرْكُمُ اللَّهِ. If you support God, God will support you. That's applicable to everything. Answer the call of Allah, Allah will answer your call. These are all the mutual relationship in both ways. And one of them is guidance, that I will provide guidance, and if you are grateful, you accept it, then you will receive the guidance. But if you reject, that's your call. Inna alayna lal huda wa inna lana lal akhirata wal ula. And to us, this is royal we. Allah referred to himself as plural to refer to the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not that he's combined of multiple parts, he's one. He's what we call wahid ahad. But to refer to his greatness in Arabic language and even in English language, we use the word we. It's like the kings used to make commands, they call royal we. We want this. It was one king and one command, but they will use the word we to show their significance or their greatness. So Allah says, is we, means Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to us belong the world and the hereafter. Akhirat wal ula. Both of them belong to us. So when we talk about dunya, if you look at it that way, if you think about it that way, that what we are giving for the sake of Allah is belong to Him, it will be easier to give. It will be easier to share with other people, rather than if you believe that this is 100% belong to us, and we have the ownership and we have the entitlement to call it ourselves. So inshallah, this is enough for tonight. وَإِنَّ لَنَا لَلْآخِرَةَ وَالْأُولَى. Inshallah, I will continue the rest of it tomorrow night. This is a surah which I think could be very, very effective for people who are somehow dealing with stinginess, with bukhl. If I'm stingy with my family, if I'm stingy with good cause in general, this is a good ayah to refer to think about it. Because ultimately, taqwa, it provides the platform for people to become generous. But if you're just attached to dunya, the nature of dunya is the more money you make it will not make you more generous. This is one of the biggest misunderstandings. We think if we become rich, we will be more generous. But the reality is that the generosity has nothing to do with the amount of wealth that we have. It's about the spirit of generosity. It's about the habit of generosity, the practice of generosity. If somebody is generous, even if they have $10, they will give, for example, $2 of that. And if one day later, years later, they have 10,000, they will give 2,000 of that. And I can tell you, it's true. And that's the reason we see, and I mentioned this before, wealth is good if it's used and utilized for the good cause, but in many cases, money demands change. A lot of these deviance in religion that we see today, it happened because of rich people. Why is that? Because Allah said, give it for the sake of Allah. Don't consider people, just do it for the sake of Allah. That's what when we say give charity and have taqwa, what we mean by pious charity. What kind of charity is pious? What are the conditions for an act of charity, infaq, that we can call it a pious act, a virtuous act of charity? What are the conditions? Tell me. Number one, it should be for Allah. So let's say if somebody brought you something and you want to take something back to them because, I have to cook something and take it back to them. Is it that for the sake of Allah or just, that's fine. It's not wrong anything with it, but it's not for the sake of Allah. So don't call it something for the sake of Allah. It's literally, this sense of obligation that because they did something good, I have to return the favor. But for the sake of Allah means you don't expect anything in return. Right? We don't expect anything in return. So that's number one. What else? What kind of charity consider virtuous? Number one, for the sake of Allah. What else? No reminders. لا تبطلوا صدقاتكم بالمن والأذى. No minnat. No reminders. I remember a few years ago I give you a cup of tea. Thank you, by the way, for the tea. Minnat. I did this to you. As a father, as a mother, you remember I raised you. Remember I bought you a gift. That's not a virtuous act that you remind, or you remind people that you did them a favor. You make them feel humiliated by your help and your charity. That's the reason the act of the Prophet and Ahlul Bayt is they did their best that the people who are being helped, they never recognize who is the source of help, that they don't feel ashamed before them. That's the reason the famous known story that that blind man that Imam Hassan went after the Shahada of Imam Ali to help him, till that day, every night Imam Ali would go and check on him and help him and talk to him and be his companion and be a source of mercy to him. And he did not know that was Ali ibn Abi Talib until his son Imam Hassan told him who he was. What other condition? So it should be, for the sake of Allah, number two, it should be no reminders. What else? Where it came from. It should be halal. It should be yours to give. You cannot, give it in somebody else's pocket. It should come from a lawful source. So any kind of charity that is not yours, إِنَّمَا يَتَقَبَّلُ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْمُتَّقِينَ. Allah will accept any act of good, any righteous act from muttaqeen, from the one who have taqwa. So a thief cannot be a muttaqeen. So a thief charity make no sense. And we had examples that let's say drug dealers, that's no exception to Islam. It could be Christian or any religion. Drug dealers, they said, let this plan of mine go well, and then I give some money for the sake of my religion. Right? Let my shipment be shipped and, no interference, and it's going to be delivered properly and, destroy thousands and hundred thousands of lives, and then I will give a lot of money to the church or to the masjid. That charity has no acceptance with God. And that is even applicable to our lives as well. Let's say if I make it, I will go to masjid. Why? If I have that haram relationship in my mind, if that person, I'm able finally to have that connection with them. And I've had people unfortunately think that way. It's not their fault because they didn't know better. We use God for the sake of sin because there's no taqwa. So it should be from the lawful source, from a halal source. These are conditions that makes the charity virtuous. And then with that comes guidance. With that comes recognition of our vulnerability before God. And then let me finish with this, inshallah. Again, questions, if you have, please post them. I only have 2 questions. Slido.com 8201 is the code. And the point I wanted to talk about is regarding people and the belief in the promise of God and believe in the day of judgment. There is the word dhan in Arabic. Dhan means when something that you're not 100% sure, but you have some suspicions. That's what dhan is, suspicion. You're not 100% sure, but you think it may be the case. And we have that if somebody even have suspicion in the existence of a life after death, it will help them live better. Even if you have no certainty, but you even think that it could be a life after death. It could be the punishment. It could be all the, the promises that made by the prophets of God. Even that could be a life changer. It could be. But if somebody believes, and that's amazing, that if somebody tells us it's a possibility, again, it's a possibility that you will be attacked, let's say by a bobcat. If you go to this park, the Simi Park, would you go there? It's a possibility. The regular person, not the risk takers, not the one who are just, looking for adrenaline rush. The sane people will say, no, I will not take that chance. Even if it's the possibility. So to believe in the day of judgment, even with that, the probability. And I tell people, understand that when you work for dunya, when you do all that, 5 times a day praying, imagine the probability if that promise of God that if somebody doesn't pray to me is worse than shaitan. Because shaitan had still prayed, but disobeyed God in a different way. And you don't pray before God 5 times a day. Just the probability of that to be true, what kind of risk, what kind of gamble we're making. With what confidence we're making that gamble. Ask Allah to give us certainty. But to begin with, just that probability could help us to eventually reach the certainty. May Allah give us the tawfiq to be of those who believe and understand the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and give us the strength, the conviction to practice and to follow the truth and the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially His final book of guidance, Quran, with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Okay. Yes. 8201. Okay. So I've got the first question. What is the good akhlaq when a guest visits you? The good akhlaq, let's say good etiquette of when you have a guest. Number one, being hospitality is one of the traditions that Arab had before even Islam. And when Islam came, approved this tradition, hospitality. So the good akhlaq toward a guest is to welcome them and try, as I mentioned, don't put your family in trouble because of a guest. That's what a good etiquette is. Yeah, when Imam Ali alayhi salam, somebody invited him to his house, he said, I will come under a couple of conditions. I will accept your invitation. One of the conditions was, don't make your family, don't put them in trouble because of me, because of this invitation. To cook whatever you cook for yourself, and that's it. So one thing is that if I have guests, don't put my family in trouble. Oh, I have a couple of guests tonight. What should I do? Can you leave the house? That's one thing, right? That because I have a guest, I have to ask somebody else to leave. Or, let's say if they are in the house, can you cook this for me and this for me? Sometimes it's favor, sometimes it's demand. We're talking about demanding. You have to do this for me. Try to be kind to them, honoring them, respecting them, the guest who visits you. And keep in mind, when you have a guest, it is important to be accommodating for them as much as you can. As much as you can. So don't enforce what you want on them. So, and then from the perspective of being a guest, Allah says try to be accommodating for the host and try to listen to what they say. So basically Allah has both sides. Said, okay, you don't force them to do something they don't like. You don't force them to do something they don't like. Care for one another. Try to keep in mind. So I would say these are some of the etiquette for visiting someone. Try to take something that they need. Avoid taking something useless when we buy something for someone's house. We have a lot of ta'aruf, a lot of unnecessary, probably shyness that it is. We don't ask what people need because we think maybe they get upset, but it is better to, in some matters, to be straightforward with your guest and even with your host. Said on Tuesdays, can we have or you have a Quran tafsir class? We'll see, inshallah. Sure. Once, inshallah, we're done with Ramadan, we can consider, inshallah, having a tafsir class. Okay, so good question. So we celebrate Bi'athat, which is the prophetic mission of Rasulullah in Rajab, 27th of Rajab, and believe Quran was revealed in Ramadan. So when was the verse of Iqra Bismi revealed? Isn't revelation a prophetic mission simultaneous? It's a good question. We believe, this is the Muslim belief, this is all across different sects of Islam. We believe on the night of Qadr, Quran revealed on the heart of the Prophet, and what we call Lawh Mahfuz, the protected divine. And then on the night of Mab'ath, that is the time that the first verse was dictated to Prophet, and then he basically transferred and he conveyed the message of Allah to people. So we believe in the two types of revelation. The revelation at once in night of Qadr, but then on the Prophet eventually we call the gradual revelation to Prophet in 23 years. Daf'i and Tadriji. We believe in two revelation. Once to the Lawh Mahfuz, and then eventually in 23 years to the Prophet. And the one that was at once to Lawh Mahfuz was in month of Ramadan, in the night of Qadr, as Quran says, Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil Qadr. But when it comes to the one that Prophet started receiving the gradual revelation, that was in the 27th of Rajab. Yes. if you wake up for suhoor during imsak time, is it not permissible to eat or drink anything, or is it an optional precaution? It's a precaution. Imsak time is a precaution. It's not an obligation. So imsak time usually is around 10 to 15 minutes before adhan. So it is permissible to eat and drink, especially if you did not wake up for the suhoor. But for those who can, imsak and refraining from eating and drinking is mustahab, is recommended. It's better to. And inshallah, the last question. Is Surah Alam Nashrah, which is Surah Inshirah, and Watini was Zaytun connected? The answer is no, they're not. And I talked Surah Teen, I did the tafsir of that. Surah Dhuha and Surah Inshirah are connected. So the one, it will be after Surah Layl. We will talk about Surah Dhuha inshallah. So Surah Dhuha wa Dhuha and Surah Alam Nashrah are connected. So they need to be recited in namaz. Never separately. No, you can't recite them separately, but in a wajib prayers, the one of them is not enough. You have to do both of them together. But let's say in mustahab prayers, you can recite one of them. Let's say just reading Quran, you want to do one surah, you can. But in wajib prayers, there are 4 surahs that they come in combination. That is Surah Dhuha and Alam Nashrah, and then a Surah Fil and Surah Quraysh. Fil and Quraysh must be recited together in wajib prayers. Dhuha and Inshirah must be recited together in wajib prayers. That's it. Inshallah, other question, inshallah, I'll keep in mind to address them in another time. Yes. Yes. So let's say I finish Surah Ham. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim wal-Dhuha wal-Layli idha sajama wadda'aka rabbuka wa ma qala until the end. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim alam nashrah laka sadrak wa wada'na. And then when you're done both of them, you go to ruku, and that counts as one surah. Same thing about Surah Fil and Surah Quraysh. At one stand, yes. Let's inshallah everybody finish with the salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Everybody inshallah stand up. Assalamu alayka ya Rasulullah. Assalamu alayka ya Fatimah al-Zahra. Assalamu alayka ya Amir al-Mu'minin Ali ibn Abi Talib. Assalamu alaykum ayyuha al-Hasan wal-Husayn Sayyid al-Shabab Ahl al-Jannah. Assalamu alayka Ali ibn al-Husayn Zayn al-Abidin. Assalamu ala Muhammad al-Baqir. Assalamu ala Ja'far al-Sadiq. Assalamu ala Musa al-Kadhim. Assalamu ala Ali ibn Musa al-Ridha. Assalamu ala Muhammad al-Taqi. Assalamu ala Ali al-Naqi. Assalamu ala Hasan al-Askari. Assalamu alayka ya Sahib al-Zaman ya Khalifat al-Rahman ya Imam al-Ins wal-Jan. Assalamu alaykum ya Ahl Bayt al-Nubuwwah wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna anzalnahu fi laylatil qadr wa ma adraka ma laylatul qadr. Laylatul qadr khayrun min alf shahr. Tanazzalul malaikatu war-ruhu fiha بإذن ربهم من كل أمر سلام هي حتى مطلع الفجر صدق الله العلي العظيم رحم الله لمن قرأ الفاتحة مع الصلوات